a lot of people's initial thoughts on the Nintendo Switch was once you dock it, there's going to be a second GPU or something in the dock that lets it play games at a higher frame rate or higher resolution or something like that. And now we think that it's just going to underclock the CPU or whatever while you're taking it, so it preserves battery life, and it only has to render the game at 720p, we think, if the screen ends up being 720p, because there'd not really be a point in rendering a full 1080p image on a 720p screen. So whenever you go to dock it, then it unlocks whatever 10, 15, 25% power is still left in the CPU, and it lets it output at whatever its maximum capacity is. I think that's what most people are thinking the Switch is going to do now. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the idea. You have to downclock to save battery because, you know, less frequency will mean less heat usually. I mean, that's not always the case, but generally when people do things like overclock their computers, they have to put massive heat sinks, so they have to water cool it or pour liquid nitrogen into it to keep the temperatures down. And it makes a lot of sense to do that, but I also had the thought that, let's say, okay, so we saw the patent with the VR possibility, obviously. I think we all saw that, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say the screen, again, this is just hypothetical. Let's say the screen is 1080p for the sake of VR, because if it's very close to you, you're going to notice the pixels on a, you know, lower resolution image. Let's say the screen is 1080, and then when out of the dock, it does is it upscales a 720p image for normal gameplay to 1080, because we've seen systems like the 360 upscale 540p images up to 1080, and it still worked out okay. So that's also a possibility. But yeah, it's going to do is it's going to drop frequency to save battery. When you put it in the dock, it's going to basically not overclock, but go back to its normal clock and then run games like it should on the TV. The only difference in clock is probably just going to be going from 720 to 1080. I don't think they will all of a sudden enable shadows or anything like that. But ARM chips are very, very, very scalable, so you can do that with ARM chips. You can actually do things like turn cores off. They could have a quad core, all of a sudden make it a dual core. They can do a lot of stuff with ARM chips.
Alright, so I'm pretty sure both of you guys seem pretty knowledgeable about Nintendo, so I'm sure you guys already know that most of the Nintendo home consoles, aside from the Wii and the Wii U, had some sort of future proof built into it, or at least thought to be put into it in the future, like the original Famicom. The original Famicom had the disc system that let you put in the little discs that would some of the games would have better music or slightly better graphics or whatever, and it would allow you to start saving your games. The Super Nintendo had the Satellaview that added certain features that it didn't have before. The Nintendo 64 had in Japan the 64 disk drive, and I think we eventually ended up just getting the expansion pack for the RAM that would let you play games like Majora's Mask or Perfect Dark, Donkey Kong, stuff like that. And the GameCube had minor future-proofing, I would say. Like, it allowed you to play the Game Boy Advanced cartridges and stuff like that, which wasn't really future-proofing it, just more of an accessory to me. But all of the other Nintendo consoles seem to have some sort of upgradability to it. Do you think that the Switch is going to have that, since we do see it being, you know, having the dock there? We know that the launch dock that it has coming with it from day one isn't going to have any of that second GPU or anything like that. But do you think there is the chance in the future that we could get something like this, to where if you get like the dock 2.0 2-3 years down the line, suddenly you are able to play certain games that you otherwise wouldn't be able to, similar to how on the new 3DS there were certain games that you could only play on the new 3DS?
Well, I think if they did, it would have to be the dock for sure, because this tablet itself, there's no like way to add it on without totally killing the point of being able to take it with you on the go. So it'd have to be something in the dock that's not there currently. So a new dock that comes out, and I think it's possible because, like they're always going back to old ideas and sort of trying to bring them back, like maybe ideas that they didn't flesh out the way that they wanted to, and trying to bring that into the current generation. So that, like, taking old ideas and reusing them is nothing new to Nintendo. So I think it's possible, yeah.
Well, so I've thought about this a lot, and I've actually made a few videos on it because I go back and forth on this. So it's possible that they could do this, but they would have to have the foresight for it right now, because the port that they put out in March would have to be able to support whatever dock they decide to upgrade to in 2 or 3 years. The port would be a big issue with bandwidth, and then of course, I mean, the biggest bottleneck for the whole system is the fact that they want you to be able to take it on the go, and that's this big thing that obviously they're doing with the Switch. And they would be kind of taking a step backwards if they made you have to put the system back in the dock for you to play a game. Like, let's say you can't play it on the go, and all of a sudden they're just basically making another home console rather than do what they're trying to do, which is give you portability. Because, I mean, let's face it, in Japan, portability is key. I mean, that's where they sell a lot of their stuff, because 3DS is portable. It's so popular there, it's insane.
Yeah, a situation that comes to my mind is if you guys have seen the way that Hyrule Warriors runs on the original 3DS, the frames are very, very poor compared to even the new 3DS version. So do you think it will be a situation to where it's not like, I think Xenoblade was one of the games that could play on the new 3DS that wasn't playable at all on the regular 3DS? So instead of getting something to where, say, the next big Zelda game or whatever takes full advantage of whatever this Dock 2.0 is, but on the original Nintendo Switch it doesn't work at all. Instead of going that route, if they make it to where it still runs, but it's going to be as best as the original Switch can run it, which may be 20-25 frames instead of that solid 30 or even 60 frames. Do you think, that would be a possibility?
I think it would have to be an enhanced performance thing, not a suddenly these games are exclusive to the new Switch, as it were. Because I like John said, that would kill the point of the Switch if you couldn't take the game on the go with you now, because it would only work in the dock, right?
Yeah. All right. Do you have anything to add to that, John?
The only reason I see them putting a new dock out to enable more power is really just for resolution. So let's say in 3 years, 4K becomes super mainstream, and they need a way to be able to output a 4K image for games. That's the only reason I would really see them put a dock out. I mean, I think the system will do 1080 no problem, and I think it'll pull 30 frames on most games. And then, of course, on the go, I don't see any reason it can't be 720 and 30 frames. So the only reason I see a dock coming is if 4K really takes off.
Yeah, I'm Daniel. If you like Jesse, you've probably seen me on Zelda Informer, where I make their YouTube videos, or some of them. And I also have my own channel called NSHG Films, where I do other non-Zelda gaming stuff. Yeah, and that's me.
This is John at Spawn Wave Media, and you can check me out anytime on YouTube. I pretty much post videos every day, or at least every other day, and I deal with technology, and it's recently been a lot of Nintendo Switch stuff, just because it's been super popular and people are looking for, news and explanations on it. But I pretty much do all of them, and I host a morning newscast called Newswave, where I talk about the world of video games.
I want to thank you all for watching this video. If you liked it, give this video a like and share it with your friends. If you haven't already, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future gaming news, theories, rumors, and discussions. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on how it could be improved. Your feedback is the most important part of bringing the quality of content on this channel to be the best that it can be. I would like to take this time to give a huge thank you to this month's Patreon supporters: Jonathan, The Edge Network, Magic Tech Review, John Frank, and Harris Priest. This video was made possible by supporters on Patreon. If you would also like to support this channel, head over to patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can support this channel as well. Rewards vary from having your topic featured on a future discussion, seeing videos early, joining as a guest on a video, shoutouts, backgrounds, and having a custom avatar similar to my own drawn a view to match any video game or anime art style that you would like. Mine is of myself as Link, but you could choose to have yours any way that you would like. Finally, I would like to thank my friends CS Guitar 89 and Gnomo Designs for providing the music and artwork for this video.